Now, Supreme Court is hearing a batch of pleas seeking legal validation for same-sex marriage. A bench comprising of Chief Justice of India, Chandrachud, and Justice P.S. Narasimha and Justice J.B. Pardiwala are presiding over the hearing. The hearing comes a day after Centre opposed pleas seeking same-sex marriage, and they had sought more time over it. Currently, what we are getting to know, live updates from a court, is that senior advocate Abhishek Manu Singhvi is making submissions over the same-sex marriage, batting for same-sex marriage. We have Rhythm joining us on the phone line to give us more details about the hearing that is taking place. Rhythm, over to you.
We heard yesterday how the central government opposed the plea seeking recognition of same-sex marriage. They said it cannot be compared to the Indian family concept of a husband, wife and children born out of the union. Today we are hearing similar arguments take place in the top court that is hearing this opposition to same-sex marriage. The sexual orientation, the court is being told, cannot be barred in right to marry, right to love by Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who is making submissions for the petitioners. The Chief Justice said we are not hearing this in detail. The senior advocate Neeraj Kishan Kaul, along with Tushar Mehta, Solicitor General, appeared in this case, and they are saying that possibly today is not going to be the day when they hear this case in great detail. Tushar Mehta is now quoting the Nafti Johar case and saying, when we say union, we don't mean union of marriage. Marriage is a contract under Muslim laws. What could be psychologically a child, we need to understand. She sees woman as mother and man as father. So basically, even as these arguments are going on, this is not the final hearing day. The petitioners are saying that the nodal counsel they want appointed is Arundhati Karju, and the Solicitor General is also given a name, that's Kanu Agarwal. Let me just simplify this for our viewers. Preliminary arguments in the same-sex marriage taking place, and the court is now being told that certain nodal counsels will be appointed in the matter. Their names have been given to the Chief Justice, Justice Chandrachud. At the same time, there is some arguments preliminary that have taken place on interfaith marriage and different codes of marriage acts and codes in India, since we have several different laws under which marriage acts are governed. Keeping all this in mind, the good news that's coming in today is the Supreme Court is now being told that this matter needs to be heard. A batch of petitions are seeking the extension of rights which were earlier given by the Supreme Court in path-breaking judgments when they had said that homosexuality is decriminalized. Today, Solicitor General Mehta is making arguments where he says, as far as the right to love, express freedom of choice is concerned, that has been taken care of in the earlier judgment. But this does not mean that we can confer the right of marriage. This is extremely critical because the Supreme Court is now being told by the central government that same-sex marriage in India should not be allowed.
Stay with us. Let's go across to Swapnil Kothari, also joining us right now. Mr. Kothari, how do you read into the counter affidavit that's been filed by the centre in this case? While the arguments are ongoing, if you can take us through the counter affidavit that's been filed by the centre, which says that considering its social value, only same-sex marriage should be recognised to the exclusion of other forms of marriage or union.
The centre's affidavit is not new. I was always aware of the fact that after decriminalization of homosexuality and reading down of Section 377, the same-sex marriage may not be allowed by the centre. I'm not surprised at its affidavit. It's a very, very old Victorian standpoint that the centre has taken. For reasons best known to them, I do not understand. If two males or two females can live together and have sex, then why can't they get married? It's a logical conclusion that people live together and then eventually get married, or may not even get married, but that's their own choice. So I don't see any harm in Indian culture or Indian ethos or anything of that sort going, haywire if two people of the same gender decide to get married. All that needs to be done is that the legislature will have to tweak a few other laws, which are these personal laws, the Special Marriages Act, the Parsi Divorce and Marriage Act, several other acts which could be there into the picture, which we would have to tweak so as to ensure that this kind of a ruling, which will be by the Supreme Court to the best of my knowledge, that it will allow same-sex marriage, and the petitioners will succeed, and the central government will fail here, because that will be the ruling of the Supreme Court to the best of my knowledge and to the best of my understanding, because to not allow the two people to get married if they are of the same gender, and to allow only heterogeneous people, a couple, to get married, infracts Article 14, which is the right to equality under the Constitution, and there is no rational differentiate between the two as to why one would allow and why one should not be allowed. So for the benefit of the viewers, only if there is a rational differentiation between the two, where you allow one and you don't allow the other, then the court allows it. But absent that, the court will say it is unconstitutional, it is arbitrary, and it does not make sense. Just as it said earlier when it read down 377, saying that if two people, consenting adults, want to have sex, now whether they are of the same gender, why should they not be allowed to have sex when a man and a woman are allowed to have sex because they are consenting adults? So likewise, the same way, the ruling will be mostly that they should be allowed to get married. To say that, a simpliciter tweaking of Special Marriages Act would have been enough, where you just say that even the same gender couple, is something which I do not agree with, because most of the gay rights activists have said that alone was enough. Why do we even have to get the government involved and consequently the courts? The answer is no, because something of this magnitude, of this importance in this country, it's better that it comes down from the Supreme Court itself. Because when the Supreme Court passes a judgment, it is the law of the land under Article 141 of the Constitution. And once it is the law of the land, automatically the legislature will have to tweak the laws to be in consonance with that judgment. And when it comes from the Supreme Court, given the respect and the stature that it has, people are more likely to follow, and the governments are more likely to not trouble people who want to solemnize their relationship into a marriage. Tomorrow, if a gay couple goes to get married, if there was a simple tweaking of the Special Marriages Act, maybe the registrar could say something, he may not do that, he may allow it, he may not allow it. But when it comes from the Supreme Court, then automatically it has a wider ramification, and it has a larger acceptability in that sense. Because this is a sensitive issue. India is not yet used to this kind of a freedom. So gradually we are going into that era. And two arguments of the center yesterday, which was that why, the affidavit was read by one of your anchors also yesterday when I was there on the show, that why do we have Western judgments or Western import? Well, I'm sorry to say that we are not following the West. In fact, our constitution is pretty much parliamentary form of democracy, which is nothing but borrowed from the United Kingdom. Our fundamental rights are borrowed from the US Constitution, which is the Bill of Rights. Our directive principles are borrowed from the French Constitution. Our emergency powers and provisions are borrowed from the German Reichstag Constitution, from the German Constitution. So we have a Western influence. We cannot avoid that. 150 to 200 years we have been ruled by the English people, and there is a Western influence. You and I are speaking English today. We are not speaking in Hindi right now. So, to say that it is a Western import and our culture will be invaded by Western civilization and all that, that is absolutely rubbish. That has got nothing to do with the law. You have to quote the law. If you have the law in your favor, then quote the law. Otherwise, don't use all this language. This is only my advice to the center, but then, the center government councils will argue this kind of thing, because I don't see whether they have any law which prohibits this. At the moment it does, because there is no solemnization of marriage. We haven't yet permitted the marriage part. So obviously the Supreme Court is going to rule the law, and the law in this country is made by two things. First, whether by the parliament or by the judge-made law, what we call the decisional law. The judge-made law, which is passed by the High Court or the Supreme Court or even the lower courts at that point in time. So here it's the apex court which is going to pass the law after hearing both the sides, and the law is going to be, or rather the judgment is going to be, that same-sex marriage should be allowed, and it will be allowed, and it is constitutional, and the central government's affidavit will be, thrown, or should I say discarded, to the Victorian eras and relegated to the past, where, people had some very close mindset about these things.
Yes, and as we speak, Mr. Kothari, yes. The matter, we understand, has now been listed for 11th of April, but very strong statements that have come in from the CGI as well, who says that the adopted child of a lesbian couple or a gay couple could be neither lesbian or gay. Leaving it at that, the CGI, of course, Supreme Court having listed the matter for final hearing on 11th of April. Meanwhile, a statement that has also come in from Union Minister Kiran Rijiju. Let's listen in.
Government is not interfering into the personal life, personal activities of anybody. So there should be no confusion, or there should be no dilution on this matter. When it comes to an issue related to the institution of marriage, then it is a matter of policy. Personal freedom and personal activities of individuals, of the citizens, are never been questioned, disturbed or regulated by government. So you must be very clear about this thing. There is a clear distinction.
All right, so remarks coming in from Kiran Rijiju. This, of course, after Supreme Court has listed the matter for final hearing on 11th of April. Meanwhile, very strong statements that have come in from the CJI as well, who says that the adopted child of a lesbian couple or a gay couple could be neither lesbian or gay. So clearly not in line with the arguments that have been made by the centre in the counter affidavit that's been filed in the case.